Okay. So, hello everyone. So thanks for joining the developer meeting for CloudNativePG today, September the 7th. So we've got on, in the agenda some proposed items from Mo and Maxime, and then I proposed one item about the last release and what we're planning for 1.18. So Mo, your turn. I don't know if you want to introduce yourself a bit and then start with your ideas. I can stop sharing and you can share, if you...
That's okay, Gabriel. I don't have much to share at the moment, to be honest with you, but I'll give you a little intro about myself and what I do, and also tell you sort of where we are at with our usage and integration of CNPG in our product line and so forth. So I'm Mo. I'm one of the founders of Heroic Labs. We build sort of infrastructure and products for the games industry. We namely have an open source game server called Nakama and a second product called Satori, which is sort of a live ops experimentation engine. Both of these products use a Postgres wire compatible database. As a matter of fact, they both use Postgres, but Satori is where we've begun experimenting with CNPG to run timescale DB in cluster in GKE. And at the moment where we are with this project is we've integrated CNPG very nicely thanks to your wonderful work, everybody involved. And it's working pretty well. From an operational perspective, we haven't gone live yet. And one of the things, and there's going to be a few items that I think in the follow-up weeks that will come to you guys, but the most sort of urgent, or rather most imminent thing that we've seen is being able to understand logs, both for the operator itself and for the sort of Postgres cluster, to be able to put metrics and alerts and basically PagerDuty. At the moment, we are running on GKE, but at some point soon we'll also run on EKS as well, and pump the logs to the respective cloud providers, so in this case, Stackdriver. Stackdriver's understanding of logs and metrics is quite basic, to be honest with you. It's a known limitation of Stackdriver, and sadly, in some of the customer bases that we're going to deploy this, we don't have the option to manipulate the Stackdriver or FluentD's configuration to transform some of your logs into the respective format that Stackdriver understands, which is why we've had to, even in our own product, had to sort of put in an adapter that can optionally format the logs in the particular format that Stackdriver understands. So for example, level should be called severity and so on and so forth. Timestamps are done in a particular way. And I posted into Slack the particular link to changes that we had made to our login framework, which we use Zap for, to make those changes. That's the long and short of it, Gabriel. Feel free to ask me any questions, but I was wondering if there's a way that we could implement something like this, or a configuration that we can put into the config map for the operator that then the clusters can also sort of inherit from, something along those lines that allows us to more easily get these logs be understood by Stackdriver rather than messing around with FluentD configuration. And also, I apologize for the background noise. I'm just in the office.
No, that's okay. No, that's okay. Thanks, Mo. Yeah. So basically, if I remember correctly, so this is the basic structure of our entries. Then they can be, record can have a different meaning depending on the type of logger. But these are essentially the things that you would like to pretty much customize, if I understand correctly.
Yes, the level, the timestamp. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
So whereas for record, I mean, what's inside, for example, we're talking about the Postgres log or the PG audit log, they have their own record. Okay, so we cannot change that easily. I mean, I think we could, but I don't think, I mean, are you okay if we keep the PostgreSQL ones this way?
Yeah, so the
Okay.
substructure is fine to have, I think, in Stackdriver. The top level, I think it should be called, like the record key should be called like message, not MSG, but actually the word message, I believe. And the level should be called severity, and I think PS should be called timestamp. They are the key sort of renames or configuration that we need to make.
Yeah.
We could offer a mapping on the
Yeah.
cluster specification
I
to give the
think,
flexibility to each user to customize instead of tailoring for
yeah.
any
I-
cloud service.
Even if the configuration is
operator
at
level.
operator level, because
Yeah.
it would be weird if you have different cluster with different logging inside the
Yes,
same
it's true. In the
Kubernetes.
end,
I
it's
was
true.
thinking
So
at
the
operator level
Yes,
to,
no, it's right.
to have a section
Yeah.
about, so by default, we call them this way, but everyone can rename them. So again, we always try and follow convention over configuration and not break the existing behavior. So I think if we add some defaults that are mapped with these values here, but allow you to specify different label names for each of these 6 fields, I think we're fine. And I don't think it should be a big task. So if
That
you
would
want,
be, I think that would.
I can try. I can create a ticket about these if you want to. So I'll put it in the agenda.
Yes, and we can contribute back
Yeah.
to the actual implementation for you guys.
I wanted to create an issue about customization of field names in each log entry operator. Okay, good. Yeah. Anything more on these, Mo?
No, I think that should solve the sort of the go live alerting for us.
Okay.
But I'm sure that Maxime has other ideas. By the way, Maxime and I work together, just if it wasn't already clear enough.
Oh yeah, no, it was clear to me. Yeah.
Yes.
So what I wanted to say, maybe we could treat these as an enhancement for 117.1. Otherwise, you have to wait for 118.
Yeah, whichever ways. I don't want to push you guys. You guys already.
No, I think this is an option. Okay, so I mean, as you can imagine, we work for EDB, so EDB is great. You know, it's giving us time to work also on the open source. But you know, for example, we didn't have time to reply to the pluggable backup interface because we wanted to release yesterday. We actually anticipated the release. Also because I will be speaking at KubeCon in Detroit with a guy from OnDat, with Chris. And so given that there's KubeCon at the end of October, and we had initially planned to release around the 10th of November, we have decided to invest in 118. So, you know, basically have 118 planned for KubeCon, so that when we're there, we can talk about 118 with the replication slots implementation that we're working on at the moment. So, so for 118, I think we can assure that we have these. But you know, our policy is also to backport everything that we can backport, and that is not a feature in the previous releases. That's why I'm adding this to 117.1, because in case we have a bug that we need to fix, we can try and squeeze this patch, because it doesn't break the compatibility in an earlier version. But otherwise, you know, I think that in 118 we can have it, so it's a month and a half away. Okay, so in the worst case. But I thought it was good also to explain our kind of backporting policy, you know.
No, I appreciate that. Yes, and
Okay.
guys, count us in for contribution to the code base as well. We'll definitely come back and help out whenever we can.
Yeah, I think that if we write the specifications here and you guys want to give it a go, we can then, you know, try and review it.
Yeah, sounds good. I think Maxim will do that at some point, but yeah, it's all good.
Okay,
I'm putting
good.
work on his plate, but yes.
Yeah, it's like me. You know, I just put work on their plate as well.
One thing you mentioned is that the Postgres logs won't be covered. Are they right now logging in a plain text? I didn't check.
No. They are in this is the structure. So it's JSON.
Mm. Yeah. We use CSV logging internally, and then we parse the logs.
Yeah, the field names are the field names that Postgres itself define.
Oh, so you process logs which Postgres produces, and then you spit them out to the container output.
Yeah, correct. So that's one of the big advantages of our operator, in my opinion.
I see. So that work will probably can also change this format as well if we need to, like in a way that like timestamp will be in the right format and severity will be in the right format. Or
For Postgres, you mean?
For Postgres itself, yes. So let's say the TS here, I cannot draw.
So we can change. So we can change these and these and record. Okay. So yeah, record. So these six, basically these six fields here.
Mm-hmm.
We could, but it becomes more difficult and more heavy. I think heavier to change these.
Okay, but as long as we can have like a severity and timestamp and maybe some other important bits for the stack driver configurable, I think it will.
Yeah, I would start with these six.
Yeah, okay.
Also because it's good, because I mean, you have to know that there's people in this team that actually have pushed towards JSON logging in Postgres, and Postgres 15 has introduced native JSON log. You can also find a talk from me, Michael, and Leonardo. I think it was 2015 at the Postgres Europe conference. We had a software called Redis Log. I don't know if it's still there, but Redis Log Postgres. Yeah. Actually, there's this blog
This is
article.
archaeology.
Yeah. I mean, we always being pushing towards real-time monitoring, okay? So we had written this extension that would push directly inside a broker. It could have been Redis, but it could have been anything else, you know? So I think that the lesson we learned there, we put it in what you see here. So basically, we've got a logger that gets the CSV entries and we convert them in JSON directly, so that as you mentioned before, everything is outputted directly in the container, a standard output as any Kubernetes container should do. So we are the only operator for Postgres that does these, you know. The other ones, they all need to use, I don't know, FluentD or something else to parse the logs. These are parsed in real time directly inside each container. Okay.
Interesting. It must have. I didn't think about it. That if you piping the logs from Postgres, I assume it is via named pipe. Then I remember the conversation about the in-flight, replace of the manager of the instance manager. So if the new manager doesn't come up, the Postgres will block on this pipe and will basically be deadlocked essentially on that thing. That was just one of the dangers to consider when we enable that in-place replacement.
Yes,
I see.
yes,
Okay.
that's true.
Okay.
Okay, so now the pluggable interface, I think there's a discussion that you started, Maxime. I don't know if you want to go through.
I just, yeah, I put some thoughts, like random thoughts about what it might look like to have different backup system other than Barman, and backups and wall archives, they go together in Postgres, right? So it's worth discussing them together. I used WOG is something which what we would like to use, but I didn't tie to WOG. I thought of, hey, how it might look like if we just allow anything to be used with an operator, right? And so there are three things: archiving, the actual backup of the tables, wall archiving, backup of the tables, and cluster initialization from the backup. Right?
Yeah, there could also be a fourth one, which we haven't yet explored, which could be rebuilding a replica from a backup. That could also be another use case, but we don't support it yet. At the moment, we rebuild replicas using PG-based backup from the primary.
From the master node. I see. Yeah, rebuilding replica from backup is probably like different enough to have its own story.
But you are correct. At the moment, these are the three.
Yeah. So I briefly had a look at everything is wired, not deep.
Yeah.
But my understanding is that everything goes through the Postgres always calls into the instance manager one way or another. So like by changing instance manager code, we can implement different strategies and invoke different tools. So which is good, which means that like we can have one change in one place. Yeah, we'll have one in one place, one big change, and then it will solve everything, all three aspects at least of what I mentioned on the discussion. Basically, like maybe we should. I don't know if we were going through this right now on a call, but basic idea is that, yeah, like instead of hard coding Barman, let's make it a configurable option what to invoke, and we'll probably need some kind of convention or expectations the operator
like an
looks
API.
for. Yeah, from the tool, like maybe some standardized exit codes, maybe I don't know, like something it prints out to std or std out, if it needs some richer diagnostics, something like this. But idea is that here we set some expectations how the wall command what wall command is doing, and then basically whatever user provides, they're free to do as long as they behave within expectations from the operator. There are some aspects which I didn't understand, like operator doesn't just the instance manager doesn't just call archive command, it also analyzes unarchived wall files and can call multiple commands at the same time in parallel. I don't know when it can happen, but probably there was some case which you tried to cover.
Yeah, I think we did some analysis on. It depends on the workload you have on the system. So basically, if you have a very high workload, we based on the benchmarks we did, you could pretty much and quite easily kill a Postgres cluster. Any Postgres cluster. This is not depending on CloudNativePG. Okay, if the wall archiver becomes a bottleneck. Okay. Because the wall archiver and I know guys, I mean, feel free to interrupt me, because if you want to add more stuff. I mean, the wall archiver in Postgres is designed to be serializable. Okay, so one wall file at a time, and Postgres has got the logic to retain the wall files in case it fails. Okay, the wall archiver fails. So what we experienced was that if you use, for example, the default 16 megabyte size for walls, and the network, is not fast enough to archive the wall files at a higher rate than Postgres is producing these walls, you end up pretty much emptying the disk. Filling the disk for Postgres, and that can also create a lot of cascading issues in the standbys, including standbys that fall behind, and you might end up with situations of data loss following a failover because the wall files are not in the archive and the standby was not able to also replay these wall files, because the problem that you've got on the primary then is propagated on the standbys, which receive a higher amount of wall files. Then they not only can pull but also replay, because the problem of the standby is that it's CPU bound. There's only one process that is replaying the wall files in the standby. So all of these might generate all these consequences in cascade. So what we developed was support for parallel wall archiving and wall restore controlled by the operator. So the operator, if, for example, Barman supports now parallel upload of wall files, but we decided to keep it in the operator's logic, so that, for example, in the future, if we want to archive on a local on a different volume, we could simply add that. Okay. And have pretty much the same logic managing parallel wall archiving and restore implemented directly there. Or if you want, we can use a gRPC call or an HTTP request, like I think you said at one stage. So that's essentially the reason. I mean, we know how it works, and I don't know if I already told you, but we are the people that invented Barman. Okay, and when this tool, I mean, we are the first backup and recovery tool that has existed in Postgres. Okay, so when we created Barman, there was no tool that was doing both backup and recovery. Okay, so we have a lot of experience in this area, and we decided to control this directly because we know how internally Postgres works. So this is, I think, the recap. I hope that it makes sense.
Yeah, it makes total sense. I'm more than happy to follow the path and just plug a different version, not to redo any logic. I mentioned it just because, like, when we set some expectations for what the wall archive is doing, there might be some thing that, hey, it shouldn't try to go back and analyze stuff like this and just upload just one file it was told to upload, something like this, right? So that the behavior matches the rest of the logic in operator. But this is more kind of the more interesting part. I think this is the backups themselves. So if you scroll down, right now, I think like what would we, how can we do how can we do backups, right, in generic way? So the backups probably would need to access like PG data, like as a files, right? Backups will probably need some scratch space. I don't know, may or may not need the scratch space preserved from the last invocation of the backup. If you do some delta, it might be beneficial, maybe, I don't know, maybe not, I don't know. And it will probably need some access to the Postgres as a super user to enable backup mode. I don't remember exactly what it's doing. Maybe it just stops checkpoint or something like this. I don't know, but it is. I vaguely remember there was some command.
Yeah, there's
issue
start
Postgres.
backup, PG start backup, and PG
Yeah.
stop backup. Yeah,
To
and
tell
then
it,
yeah,
so that the files are consistent.
Yeah.
For the
and
whole
we need
backup
to
process.
back up all the volumes. So, for example, once we introduce table spaces, we also need to back up table spaces.
Yeah. So and I thought, okay, how what can be what can be the way to have it like in a generic way without trying to come up front with all possible combinations. I thought maybe we can create we can expect user to create a job, and then they can do whatever they want in the job. Basically use any image, any tools, and operator will just spawn this job, and maybe it will it use the job essentially as a template and create one real job and add PVCs to it. Maybe again by convention it will mention those PVCs environment variables somehow, or maybe it will be convention that all the storage is in a slash data or slash PG data, some predefined path. But one way or another, like operator provides like just fills necessary bits, and then the rest of the job just executes to completion. And once the job is completed, operator considers the backup is being done. And again, if some richer diagnostics needed, like status report or something like this, that job can call back to operator or to the instance manager to report that if it is needed. I don't know details how exactly what expects what kind of metadata currently backup process is used internally when it spawns Barman. But if we do with the job root, then they probably need something more than just a true or false success or error to be reported back. So that is one of the idea. Another idea is like I didn't mention it because it is similar to what we have in a wall. It will be just a script, and the user is responsible to prepare an image with that script, and then we configure the script to say, hey, for the backup, we call this script with these predefined arguments. And in the same way, it's up to the user to define job. It will be up to the user to define image, but then the problem arises that what if they need some scratch space? What if they need something else?
Yeah.
Then we complicate the container definition for the main Postgres for the purpose of the backup. So I thought maybe job is.
I think this is something that we were thinking. I think the last weeks, also because in the talk I will be giving with Chris from on that at KubeCon, we are also talking about backups, and on that is a storage solution that provides snapshotting of PVCs. Okay, I think one of the things you said at the start, you said that wall archiving and backups, they go up, they are related. I agree, but I also disagree. in the sense that in my experience, they're kind of independent as well. Because I mean, if we know that wall archiving is in place, then if you think about it, we could have any backup strategy, because backups are just labels of, you know, in the history of a continuous history of a PostgreSQL cluster. Okay. So ideally, for example, we could even kind of ignore where the base backups are, or if there are any, if we use you know, an external solution for backups. Okay, then at this point I think we have the option to support, you know, external tools or not. But I think that's also an interesting angle, so that for example, if we find a way to restart clusters, and this is what we were talking with yeah, some of the folks here, I think Armando, Michael, Leonardo at least, was to instruct the operator to restart from existing PVCs. So if we think about that, so if you've got your wall archives somewhere, and we know that there, if we've got PVCs that are backed up regularly, it's just a matter of creating the PVCs before we create the cluster, which is different from what we do now, because we create the PVC with the cluster, and instruct the operator to restart from that solution. At that point, if we do that, it could be even any generic job, in my opinion, that does that, as long as the PVC is built following the PostgreSQL rules. Okay, so we just say, okay, if you've got PG data, it's simple, you just restore here. If you've got table spaces, they need to be done this way, and so on. This is just an idea, okay, that we are exploring, and it's just a concept at the moment. But this could also be another angle to consider, rather than embedding also the backup tool in here. But in my experience, if we enable scripts and things like that, that's where my fear is that we spend a lot of time answering in support, I mean, in tickets in GitHub. Yeah, because this is the experience we've had with Barman. The docs say, don't do this, and I think 10 out of 11 of the questions in the Barman list for the last 10 years are about the things that we say that shouldn't be done. So this is my fear, okay? And this is also why some things that we believe might have caused troubles, we have deliberately hidden them in the code and made an opinionated decision, technical decision about them based on our experience. Okay. I don't know if you. But having said this, I mean, the thing is that for WALG, I don't know WALG, as I said in the chat, you know, but I'm more than happy to work on a generic pluggable interface. I think that's what we should do.
The reason I said that backups and walls, they come together because of retention, right? You need to know how many walls you need to keep based on archives, right? There's no much
based on also, yeah, I get
on
that.
the
Yeah,
backups, right?
Yeah, on the backups, yeah, you
yeah.
have.
So
on the
like
first base backup you have, yep.
So if you say like we keep backups for like last 7 days worth of backups, then you also need to keep walls, and they also find the right walls to delete.
Yeah, I got. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah, yeah. You're right.
So that's why that. But if you agree with the general approach that command to the wall archiving is configurable and backups done
Yeah, I would start
via
with
jobs
I would
to
start
prepare
maybe with
PVC.
just the wall archive,
Okay.
maybe. I think
Okay.
because, as I said before, because they are independent, kind of okay, it doesn't matter where you have your base backups, as long as the recovery.
for the
Yeah, sorry.
So for the base backups, for the base backups, do you see it to be a mostly a snapshot based, like to CSI snapshots, rather than a Postgres specific tool?
I think we need to explore probably both. I think ideally we should have both. But for large databases, and especially in the cloud, I think that having a snapshot that maybe even, you know, after the snapshot is taken, you know, in a synchronous way, builds the object store and stores it, for example. But I think I would definitely consider it PVC snapshotting as an option. I don't know. I don't want to just talk about, you know, myself. I don't want other people think.
But if we go with the jobs, that job can coordinate PVC snapshotting the way it wants, right?
Yeah.
So
that's
it's
what I
still
was saying before, you know,
common
that,
denominator, right? That
yeah, that if we say, okay, you can do your custom backups the way you want, as long as when you restore, the operator expects that the volumes are done in these, in that way.
I see. Yeah,
Yeah.
agree. But it makes
But
sense.
the retention policy is something that needs to be addressed, because it's the backups that drive the WAL files that need to be kept. We can't
Yeah.
simply delete WAL files older than 7 days. If you know, the earliest backup is 30 days ago. Yeah.
Exactly. So whichever if we talk about pluggable solution, then either the backup process or WAL archiving process should be responsible for deleting the past data, like beyond the retention point. So it must be probably told retention configuration by the operator when it is invoked, so it can do the right thing. Or it can discover this retention configuration itself by reading some config map.
Yeah, this is what I think we do. Sorry, no, I didn't want to go here. Where is it? No, where's the backup part? Where do we have the commands? Ah, here.
Inside the Postgres configuration. Yeah.
So I wanted to check the retention.
Yeah.
So the command we run, there's a command environment cloud. I think we get, yeah, we ask Barman to delete
WAL files, right?
WAL files, yeah. Or to delete backups, right?
It's
delete backup.
inside backup delete under package management Barman.
Okay.
Yeah, it's there. Look for -- retention. Yeah,
Okay.
that one.
So you're invoking explicitly delete command. So you explicitly invoke some command to delete backups. That can also work, yeah. And it also takes care of wall files as well, right?
Yeah, the logic is in Barman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't ask to delete a specific backup. We ask Barman, this is our retention policy. Delete everything that is older.
Yes. Barman is evaluating the retention policy.
Okay, so in a pluggable archive world, that would be another job type, probably, which you create based on a template, or something like this.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Sorry?
something to be decided.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
For example, we execute the retention check
After-
at the end of every backup. So you
Mm.
could do that in the backup job if you have one.
Yeah, that's what I thought about, like either backup or wall archive, but one of them, which is executed regularly, also basically does the housekeeping.
So in my experience, okay, so this is what I've seen in the past as well. So if you are using an external backup tool, you don't worry about retention policies. Okay. So you just expect that there's a, I don't know, the Velero or you know, canister solutions, you know, for the equivalent. Okay, so you simply don't worry about retention policies. Whereas if you have a PostgreSQL technology for backups, like for example Barman, or if we introduce WalG or PG Backrest, other tools, I would expect that you rely entirely on these tools. So I think these are primarily probably the two use cases I would start to kind of bisect, you know. So yeah.
Okay, probably in the first version, we'll just have the backups running somehow, one way or another.
Mm.
And
I would, you
deal
know,
with retention later.
so as I said, I think the whole archive could go separately, okay? Because in my opinion, even if you use an external tool, you still need to archive wall files, okay? So I would start with making generic the wall archiving process,
Okay.
okay?
Yeah, makes sense.
So maybe by defining the type, so for example, by default it could be Barman Cloud, then we could add, you know, the WalG type and then PG Backrest type if you want to. But I don't know if PG Backrest can directly work with object store. I think
Well,
PG
that's the
Backrest is more similar to Barman, so it requires probably an operator.
when you say define types, do you see those backup solutions to be configurable
Yeah,
to have their own
custom
section
level.
in a CRD,
Yeah.
or you expect generic script and then whatever the script is doing?
No, I would, in my experience, I would prefer that we say, okay, we support WalG. And
I
if
see.
you want to use WalG, I still don't understand the why, because unless, you know, we see that WalG is better than Barman Cloud, I think, you know, personally, I would like to work on other stuff because I think PostgreSQL, for example, I'd like to spend time working on table spaces at this moment, rather than introducing a new backup tool, personally, because I think we still need to have declarative databases, declarative roles, declarative table spaces to, I think, address the scalability and declarative configuration goals. In my opinion, I think but I don't know, do you have reasons why WallG you think is better than Barman Cloud, or?
Well, I used it before. Quite, it worked for me. From the quick glance, it seems the feature I used was this Delta backups,
Yeah, I know.
incremental
Yeah.
backups, which gives the full backup, which is full backup, but it is
Increment.
not a full backup. Yes,
Yeah.
and because the it is
Differential.
very specific to Postgres. It's not a generic Delta backup, right? They analyze table, what's the name? Heaps, not heaps.
Yeah.
Pages in that
Yeah.
in data files. And it also works very neatly. Work together with the WAL archiving. It just keeps enough walls. It keeps enough backups, and it also can restore. Basically, it became trivial to restore because before we started with this CNPG, we tried to do the same things, okay, kind of in-house. We abandoned when we discovered this CNPG project, and the feature which we had was the restoration from the object store at any point, and it was pretty trivial to use with the WallG because you just point to the object store and it takes full backup and initializes with WAL files as well, adds the WAL files.
Yeah, but that's how theoretically how Barman Cloud should work with CloudNativePG. So that's pretty much. Yeah, the good thing, I mean, WallG is the you know next next after WallE, and I think Michael was with me when Matt Farina from Heroku presented WallE while we were presenting our, the predecessor of Barman at a conference. So we talked about. So I think Barman Cloud is very similar to WallE, but I think the main advantage, in my opinion, of WallG is that it's written in Go. But in terms of features, unless you really want to use differential backup, I don't see. So how big do you plan to have your database in CloudNativePG?
No, not terabytes, hopefully.
Okay.
Hopefully. We'll see once we have a real usage of the product. More probably can, if Ismo still here, or he had to jump another call.
Yeah.
He probably had to jump on.
I mean, my advice is to start. I don't know, unless you have a really strict requirement to have to move to WallG. I'd rather work. I mean, there's more exciting stuff, in my opinion, to work on the CNPG side.
Yeah, that's why we offered kind of our help to help with this. If you agree to accept the pluggable implementation. So try not to take your time to from development and actually add to it.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, if you want to pursue that direction, I think the pluggable interface. Yeah, I would start with the walls.
Okay, so just for me to be clear, when we say pluggable, you still want it to be not a generic command which you expect on a script or on an image to be available. You want it to be like a first-class field in a Postgres cluster CRD.
I would prefer the latter, but I don't know the rest.
Like my reasoning about the generic was that it is that anyone else, all other system administrators can use whatever they're already familiar with. So they have, imagine they have like from perspective of the previous company I worked for, like we had a backup solution in place, and if I were to introduce this operator, I couldn't change the backup solution which they were using. It was some proprietary
like
enterprise.
Veritas or something.
I think it was something. It was something like I wasn't familiar with. I was just given it, and I had to use it because there are lots of, I don't know, rules and policies in place around those backups, and you just have to use that.
Yeah,
And
I mean, for example, I would rather work on the, for example, the barman operator. So basically, or something similar. Okay, so if you have an operator for barman, basically you have your PVCs. You dedicate a PVC to barman, one or more PVCs, let's say, and it performs incremental backup. So it enables incremental restore as well. It keeps WAL files and it can relay WAL files to other object stores. Okay, and if you have a like a Veritas-like backup solution, you just have to back up the PVCs. That's all. So that's in again before Kubernetes. That was the most typical solution to integrate Postgres backups in corporate backup solutions. Was to okay, I've got a PVC. I just copy the PVC, and then it's but when you restore that, it will be barman who will restore the clusters. Okay. So
the barman operator, I'm not familiar with barman. I probably won't be able to meaningfully and
it could
quickly
it could be
contribute
it could
to
be
the
WAL
thing.
G operator, if you want, or something like that, because backups are independent, I think, from the life cycle of a cluster. Okay, they could be done externally. We don't care. Okay, but the WAL archive is critical. So I think so for example,
Okay, let's
the
go down
Postgres
to the
cluster.
archive.
Yeah, the Postgres cluster, we could even say, don't worry about, backups are done externally, okay? But we need to ensure the WAL files are backed up, are archived somewhere. So, yeah, I think we can I'll keep thinking about these, okay? I think this was good conversation to have. So it's important. We need to do this. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. I need to jump at 4 to
Yeah,
another call.
So the agenda, I think we had backup from standby servers. I think this is something we should do. So we should probably elect a node from which to perform the backups. It should actually work, I think, out of the box, I think, because Barman Cloud works on standbys too. So
yeah, we should. The only thing that we need is a field somewhere in the configuration of the operator in CRD. I don't know. That say, okay, I don't want to back up from the primary. I want to back up from a standby. Then
there's
yeah,
preferred standby or something like that.
yeah.
Yeah, but then there can be nuances, like if there is a asynchronous replicas, right?
It shouldn't matter, Maxime.
Yeah.
Shouldn't it prefer the one which is most up to date?
Yeah, a backup is not up to date right a second after it finished. So, and then you have the stream of WAL, and you can reach every point. So it doesn't really matter. But
yeah,
you could simply pick the most the first replica in alphabetical order. Is as long as it is still connected to the primary and is still replicating.
Actually, I think this would be, more interesting, a more interesting task to work on if you're interested, Maxime.
Yeah, I think we're interested in both
yeah.
of those. Another one, another question I had regarding this thing: could it result in an unrecoverable backup when the failover is happening during a backup?
Surely. The Postgres infrastructure forbid that. If you are taking a backup and what you are backing up is promoted, so it's a standby to become a master, you need to abort and back up again. Because
you should use the previous. You should use the previous backup,
or just detect the condition and restart.
I see. So, like, do you think the operator should look into it and be responsible. Okay, I'm backing up that node. It's not finished. I want to promote that node, and there should be a way to cancel the backup then, something like this.
Well, if you don't do that, I think it's Postgres itself that when you call the stop backup, it answers you, I'm not in backup mode. So, and this is an error.
It's got if I remember correctly, it's got precedence. The promotion pretty much invalidates the backup you're taking.
Okay, so promotion would still take place.
Yeah.
Just backup will be incomplete. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's actually what I would prefer.
Yeah, especially in the non-exclusive one. So which will be the default in the future. So
Okay.
yeah, okay, good. I mean, Maxim, thank you very much for joining. We're really happy that you participated.
Really happy that we found this project. It's really great. Thanks for the work. Hopefully we can make it better.
Yeah, definitely. I'm sure.
We plan to use it a lot. You know,
it will be a long journey. You know, it will.
Yeah.
You know, but I think you know.
Right. Guys, I have to jump on another call.
Yeah.
Really sorry.
Bye,
you very
Maxim.
much.
Thank
Many
you.
thanks for the discussion.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Worries.
Bye-bye.
Okay. So this was good. I wanted to quickly go through the I mean, we did the release yesterday. I mean, release 1.18. You know, let me get the. I mean, we've got some. So we don't have time to talk about the proposal of replication slots, but Marco is working on this prototype, and we're planning to have it land in 1.18. I'll quickly show the proposed interface. So this is let me get the ticket. PG. Replication slots. Oh, I don't see the proposed interface here. No, I can't find it. So I only have these. So yeah, this is, the idea is to add this section called replication slots with initially the high availability subsection, because the idea here is to manage replication slots that we will be using for our high availability replicas. Okay, so you know that when we have multiple instances, we will manage by default the replicas using streaming replication. They will be also used by synchronous replication. Okay, so the idea is to manage these replicas replication slot. Okay, making sure that the primary is the one that leads, and the primary defines one replication slot per standby, and that each standby at regular intervals keeps updated the local copy of those standbys, advancing the position. Okay, so I don't know, Marco, do you want to add anything? I mean, this is the prototype you're working on at the moment.
Yes. basically the idea of this is we are implementing as an application what several years ago we proposed to include in Postgres as a HA
Failover slot.
failover slot. So yeah, and yeah, we are implementing that in the operator, managed by the instance manager in a dedicated Go routine. So it's not important if the slots on the standbys are slightly behind the slots on master on primary, because by design, as consumer of a slot are able to advance if they don't need what is at the current position. So it should work. Yeah, the current POC seem to work. Now we need to refine it, test it.
Okay, good. So the other, I think, major commitment we have for 1.18 is to support Kubernetes 1.25. Okay, so this is it. Anyway, I think we're over time. I suggest we call the end for this meeting. Anything you want to add? Okay, good.
Good.